So, hello everyone. We are now live, and we are here to talk today about bullying, and that bullying is preventable. Bullying is a key concern for children and the youth. In a recent opinion poll with 100,000 of children, and Lucia will explain that for us even better, conducted by the UNICEF Youth Report in collaboration with the United Nations Special Representative on Violence Against Children, 9 out of 10 respondents said bullying was a problem, and 2/3 had been actually victims of bullying. Of the victims, 2/3 did not know whom to tell or did not tell anybody because they were afraid of be ashamed. Bullying in any of its forms violates a children's integrity and dignity. And it's commonly associated with anxiety, distress, confusion, anger, insecurity, lower self-esteem, and a deep sense of exclusion, powerlessness, and helplessness. The effects of bullying are long-term, and an important number of adults who are victims of bullying in childhood present higher prevalence of depression, as well as other physical, social, behavioral, and psychological problems when they get older. But the good news is bullying is preventable, and we can end the torment of bullying that affects millions of children worldwide. So that's why we are here today, and we have like 3 guests, special guests, who will discuss effective and innovative ways to prevent and end the torment of bullying, from the schoolyard to the cyberspace. Let me briefly introduce. We have Asia. Asia Mayrock is the scholastic author of the book, The Survival Guides to Bullying, currently available in all major bookshops in the United States. Her book is based on her own experience and on how she overcame 8 years of bullying. It includes survival tips, personal stories, rap poems, and quizzes to support children and teens going through the torment of bullying. Asia, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Great. We also have here with us, and on my side, Keita. Abram Keita is a child rights activist who has relentlessly fighting for justice of children in his home country, Liberia. Last year, he received the prestigious International Children's Peace Prize. He has also been actively involved in the EU Report consultation on bullying, mobilizing thousands of children and young people to participate back in his home country, Liberia. Keita, it's an honor to have you here with us today. Would you like to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. It is extremely a pleasure to be here today and to share my thoughts with you.
And we are also honored to have with us Maria Luisa Sotomayor, Lucia. Lucia works in UNICEF Global Innovation Center on the EU Report Global Initiative. EU Report is an innovative platform developed by UNICEF, currently being used in 29 countries with over 2 million subscribers. The platform gives children and young people a voice, which in turn has influenced governments to better stand for children's rights. So Lucia, would like to say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be here. And just an FYI, I am taking this hangout from my phone. So let's cross our fingers. Nobody wants to call me during this time, but just in case I get cut off.
Good. We will also have a questions and answer sessions where everyone can ask a question to our guests. if you are watching and you have a question, please post your question on Twitter or Facebook, hashtagging hashtag #ZeroViolence2030. My first question is to all our guests. So, and the question is, from your experience, how can we prevent bullying? And let's first hear Asia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So, in my opinion, of course, bullying is an enormous epidemic and it's something that we need to tackle. And just as you said, Ed, it's great because it is preventable. Just yesterday, there was a story about a boy in Texas, a 10-year-old boy who is fighting for his life after being set on fire from his bullies. So bullying doesn't just happen online, but it happens in school, physically, verbally, mentally, all of that. So from my book and from my experiences having been bullied for 8 years, I think that there are 3 top ways that we can prevent bullying. The first thing is I really believe that bullying needs to be taught in school curriculums all around the world. Because as kids go to health class and they learn about drug and alcohol abuse, I think that bullying should be taught in school so it's taken seriously and we know how to identify it, we know how to stand up for it, and we know how to ask for help when we are going through it. The second thing that I think is really important and is in this zero violence name is a zero tolerance policy in schools for bullying. When I was being bullied and I went to go ask for help or I went to report the issue, nothing was done or very little is done. And I go all around the country speaking to kids every week about bullying, and the biggest complaint that many of them have is that nothing changes when they ask for help or when they report it, and they don't know what to do anymore. So I'm very, very passionate about creating this type of zero tolerance policy in schools all over the world so that things are done when a report is made. And the last thing I would say is it's so crucial to equip kids with the tools to stand up for others and to stand up for themselves. 50% of the time, if anyone stands up for a kid being bullied, then that kid will never be bullied again. And so when I was being bullied, no one stood up for me. And had someone stood up for me, maybe I wouldn't have gone through 8 years of it. And so I really encourage every single kid out there to take a stand and to use your voice, because your voice is important and you can make a difference.
Thanks, Asia. Now let's hear Keita. From your experience, how can we prevent bullying?
Thank you very much. First of all, I normally say bullying is a psychological scourge that needs to be quarantined as immediately as possible, because it damages a child's future or a victim's future. And from my experience, you know, I was born in one of the largest slums in Liberia called West Point, and that slum it is seen as a rejected place. Not too many people go to West Point. So many at times people will call me a boy from West Point, especially in school. And from my experience, the first and foremost thing I would want parents to play a cardinal role in preventing bullying. That is, parents should monitor who their children go around to know what friends they interact with, whether those friends are fond of provocative or mockery statements. And as part of that, also children should monitor their children online activities. A lot of children are involved into posting on Facebook, posting on Twitter, posting on Instagram, and most of the time their colleagues bully them. Maybe they misspell something in a sentence, and then they go on Facebook and then respond to it. That stays with them forever. There's an experience of me, and I posted something on Facebook before, and then somebody came under it and said, you missed this, and I was very traumatized. I felt ashamed because I had to recover from it. I told my mother, and then she was like counseling me for it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Keita. Now let's hear Lucia. From your experience, how can we prevent bullying?
There are so many different aspects around bullying today that cause bullying, and one of the things that happens today is we have ICTs, our technologies through which kids and adolescents can also be victims of bullying, but can also use them to protect themselves against bullying. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about your report very quickly and how we have used it to collect data around the world on how children today are being victims of bullying and why. So Eureport is a social messaging tool. It's basically technology for communicating with children and young people and adolescents everywhere in the world through different channels. SMS, where there is no internet connection, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, app, different channels for us to communicate with young people, ask them questions anonymously, and then have those results visualized in websites. So it's real-time information to achieve social change. We ask questions, and then the UNICEF offices with our partners in each country use that information to improve the lives of children and young people on various issues. So UNICEF data has shown that 1 in 3 adolescents between 13 and 15 experience bullying on a regular basis. So we used Eureport to collect more data on bullying, and we asked in 17 different countries why children were being victims of bullying, who they were talking to, and just as you said, Ed, at the beginning, we saw very alarming results where 9 out of 10 children believed that bullying is a problem, and 67% have been victims of bullying. One of the things that was very alarming and very in line with what both Angel and Kate were saying is that children are not talking today about bullying to adults. They're mainly relating to their peers, and that makes us ask ourselves, what are schools doing and what are decision makers doing, and what can we, the adult world, do to prevent and help prevent bullying? We saw through our Eureport results that children didn't know who to tell, and that it was a normal bullying, and that was one of the reasons why they did not provide that information. So those results were then used by the Office of the Special Representative for Violence Against Children to input a report that is going to be presented at the General Assembly next week, and with recommendations to all countries on how to prevent bullying. So how can we prevent bullying? Use these kinds of tools is one of the options where technology can help prevent and can help protect children. It's real-time data for achieving social change, and it's out there, and that's how we can, one of the ways in which we can help prevent bullying.
Okay, thanks, Lucia. I have another question for you. Bullying is one of the top concerns for children and young people. How do you think children and the youth can become part of the solution?
Okay. Children and youth today are the largest youth population ever. There's so much power in youth, and we believe that the more voices of young people that we have speaking out on the issues that affect them, the louder they're going to be heard, and the likelier that they are going to be influencing positive social change. Eureport is a program where we have young people in each country determining as well what are the issues that they want to talk about. It's a program from young people to young people. It's not UNICEF asking young people, it's young people with partners saying, okay, these are the issues that are affecting us. And we know today that bullying is one of them, and many of our countries where we have Eureport live, which is 29 countries, that as you mentioned, are addressing bullying. And for example, in Ukraine, when they saw the poll results that they sent from Eureport to 10,000 Europorters in Ukraine, they saw that only 4% of kids in Ukraine were telling their teachers when they were being victims of bullying, which takes us back to the whole conversation of what Aja was saying at the beginning of how can we prevent it, and what's the role in schools as well, and in the curriculums and in teaching. So the UNICEF office in Ukraine took those results and saw that 4% of children were not telling their teachers, and incorporated that data into the program work being done by the education section in coordination with the Ministry of Education. They activated a campaign, an anti-bullying campaign in Ukraine, in schools in Ukraine, with the communication to teachers and the relationship between teachers and students as one of the key factors. That's how are kids being part of the solution. by reporting information, right? By using these available tools. We have also polled on cyberbullying, and we have seen how cyberbullying and technology is being used. The question is, how can children also be part of the solution by taking those available technologies and being empowered on them, and knowing that the information that they provide is going to be used on their behalf and to improve their lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucia. I have now a question to Keita. Protecting children from bullying is a question of human rights. Tell us how children and young people can advocate for their own rights.
Young people will be the ones to inherit the future that is at risk, and we must do what it takes to protect their rights. For young people to advocate for their own rights, I feel that the first and foremost thing is to be aware of their rights and know acts of violations that are being perpetrated against them. Take, for instance, when I was 9 years old, I normally tell people that my strong sense of righteousness was ignited when a 13-year-old girl was abused. At that point in time, I realized that children and young people are silent victims of violence whose rights can easily be violated, so I decided to act. So I was cognizant of the fact that I have rights, and then I decided to act. So to act, I started engaging into speaking events, community gatherings, having awarenesses. And on the issue of bullying, to advocate against bullying, you must do community awarenesses, like Asia said. Community awareness is a key point, and in schools as well, students must be able to take up the mantle of authority, go from class to class, tell their colleagues about their rights, tell their colleagues that bullying is a dangerous thing, and making people, those who are falling in the hands of bullying, making them understand that what they are doing is something very bad. And another thing is the issue about speaking out. When you are speaking out, you should be cognizant of the fact. You should know what your rights are and what your limitations are as well. So in speaking for your rights, tell the others that these are my rights, and it is very imperative that you protect my rights and you give me the enabling environment where I will be able to grow and live in a world that is peaceful and friendly. And parents also have a part to play in guiding their children. When I was coming up, speaking out for my rights and the rights of my colleagues back in Liberia, my mother was always a source of inspiration. She was always there giving me the courage, telling me what is right, what is wrong. Many a times, we as young people, we err, but our parents as a whole have a greater part to play. They have a greater role to play. So the parents have a greater role to play in ensuring that we speak out for our rights and we do it in a peaceful, orderly, and comfortable manner.
Thanks, Keita. Asia, I now have a question for you. Before we turn to the public for more questions, you wrote the Survival Guide to Bullying to help children go through what you have gone through. Tell us, how can children survive bullying and come out stronger?
That's a great question. So bullying is one of those things that can last many, many years and can also only happen for a week or a few weeks. And so it's really important, because we don't know what this timetable is for each individual child, to tackle it at its core. So I think that there are kind of 4 key ways that kids and adults and educators can join together to not only stop bullying, but to thrive after it. And these are things based on what I went through in my life and kind of how I got through it and survived. So one of the first things I think is that it's really, really important to not go through bullying alone. For 8 years almost, I never told anyone, and I went through it all by myself because, like what you said earlier, Ed, I felt so ashamed and so scared, and like there was something wrong with me if I told someone that I was being bullied. And so it's really important for any kid out there to create a top 5 list of the people in their life that they trust, whether that's an educator, a teacher, a sibling, someone, usually an adult, that they can go to and confide in so that they can get the proper guidance and help and just not be alone in this struggle. The second thing that I think is really important is mental health resources, because the person being bullied is not the only one going through something. The bully is also going through something which is making them bully. So mental health resources in school and out of school, depending on the community and what is available, is really, really crucial. I didn't start going to therapy and seeking that help until many, many years through the time I was being bullied. And that was something I wish I had done earlier as well. Another point that I think is very important in stopping bullying and thriving afterwards is kind of what everyone said about making sure that you do ask for help. And like I said earlier, it's really hard and it's really scary, but one thing that adults and educators and everyone out there can do is create that safe space where it's okay to ask for help, and that you won't be judged and you won't be questioned based on what's going on. And that's really, really crucial, because the thing is the problem gets even worse when kids stop speaking. And the more kids I speak to, the more I realize that most of them are not asking for help. They're not saying anything because they don't think anything can be done. And that's heartbreaking that people don't have that hope, but there is hope. And so encouraging kids that they can speak up and they can get help is very important. And the last thing I will say is, one thing that really helped me survive was having dreams and writing. Writing was my savior because I found purpose in it. And so I encourage every single kid out there to find that thing that makes you healthy and happy, and find that outlet that you can express yourself in. And for any adult out there, to encourage kids and students to find their purpose, because that will not only help you survive, but also help you thrive. And just in conjunction with all of that, when you access that part of yourself that makes you feel happy and alive, you find your voice, and that voice is so crucial in standing up for others and in standing up for yourself. So I believe that all of that will not only help you survive, but thrive.
Thanks, Asia. Wonderful for sharing your experience. Now, I would like to open the questions and answers. I want to remind those who have joined later that you can post your questions through our Twitter or Facebook accounts using the hashtag #ZeroViolence2030. So we do have a question to start with. The first question of the public is, bullies have much of cyberspace to create nuisance these days. How can one deal with that? And I will ask that question to you, Asia, if you don't mind.
Of course, yes. Cyberbullying is, I would say, the newest form of bullying, and in a way the most dangerous. And why I believe this is because it's 24/7. It used to be kids would go to school, get bullied, and go home and they would be safe. But now it never ends. And I kind of came up in the time where Facebook and texting and instant message was all taking off. And so for me, I remember feeling like I would never get through this because it was just never, ever ending. I'll tell a quick story. When I was 15 years old, I was a freshman in high school. There was a very big cyberbullying attack that happened to me. So a girl that I had never met who went to my old school that I was bullied at, she dressed up as me for Halloween. And in that point in my life, I was living 3,000 miles away. And this attack with horrible comments about me and just disgusting remarks, it kind of went viral. And so in that moment, it was my moment of the most darkness. And what I did was I deleted all my social media. I blocked anyone who was bullying me. I created a world for myself where I could be away and safe from all of that. So by telling that story, what I want to share with everyone is you can be on social media and you can be happy and healthy with all of it, but it's important to protect yourself from anyone who is trying to bully you. So make sure that you have good privacy settings. Make sure that your accounts aren't public to the entire world if you are not wanting to risk getting bullied. Make sure that you block and report anyone who is harassing you or other people that you know. And creating that kind of space online, as well as taking screenshots and taking pictures of any cyberbullying attack so that you can properly report it, is crucial to protecting yourself and the rest of cyberspace.
Thanks. Keita, I have a question for, indeed, the public has a question for you. So how can we actively develop a culture of peace and respect for children's rights?
Sorry?
How can we actively develop a culture of peace
for children.
Yeah.
You know, when I won the International Children's Peace Prize, in my speech, I said, I cautioned adults who were present at the program that their graduation from childhood does not distinguish them from us. So the first and foremost thing is you should recognize that you were once a child, that you passed through that social status before becoming an adult. So that was a call to them that they have a responsibility to children. They have a responsibility to speak for children. Children should not be left alone speaking for themselves. Adults once passed through that stage, and they too must provide that space where children can speak. So that's the first and foremost thing. And another thing is empathy. Your ability to put yourself in the situation of children who are victims of violence. You just realize yourself in a situation where you are, for instance, you are being abused, you are being bullied, and then you imagine what the physical, the psychological effects will be, the kind of a long-term trauma that it will have on you. So when you imagine that kind of a situation, you put yourself in that place, then you want to act. And then another thing is compassion. When you are compassionate, you move. You see certain group of people are marginalized, are oppressed, their rights are being violated. A compassionate person will go there and say, we want to change this situation. I want to help to change this situation. Like my story, I said I wanted to change this situation because in the past I was a victim of violence. Losing my father at the age of 5 and starting high school starting primary education at the age of 9, it was a challenge for me, and I knew that other children were going similar situations too. So I decided to act. I said to myself, I wanted to be the light in darkness, and I started speaking out, organizing community awareness, inviting my colleagues to come so that we can talk about our rights and know what we should do as children to demand adults to respect our rights.
Yeah. Thanks, Keita. We do have here another question, and Lucia, this time is for you. How do we ensure that the voices of children and youth are not only heard, but are also, and more importantly, the issues they raise about bullying are actually considered and addressed?
Okay, you broke up for the first part of the question. So, is how can we make sure that the information that we received is considered in the work that we do?
Exactly. It's not only hear the voices, but act.
Yes, that's a great question, and I completely agree that we need to ensure that the information is being used, and it's one of the key principles. Sorry,
Lucia, we are getting a bit of noise from the mic. I don't know.
Is this?
Maybe because it's closer to the computer or something.
No, it's not.
Now it's better. Now it's better.
Okay, I'll move away from the computer. Okay, yes, that is a great question. And in fact, it's one of the key principles that we have in Eureport. We do not send out questions that we don't have assurance that somebody is going to be using the data. We always say, this is not for headlines. This is not just for visualizing things. This is for achieving change. And how do we assure that? One is whenever our Eureport teams in a specific country get a request to send out a poll and send out questions, they have to make sure inside their steering committee, which is conformed by various partners and related to the issues they're working on. So if they are sending out questions on bullying, they will have partners that work on bullying sitting in the steering committee. So first they need to assure that that data is going to be used in an advocacy process. Don't just ask something just for asking something, ask something because you want to improve young people's lives. That is the first thing. And the other thing is we always want to get back to Eureport. So Eureport is not a polling tool. It's a program for achieving change. So it's a conversation. If we ask young people something, we have the obligation of telling them how their data is being used. They are providing very useful information. Why would somebody provide that information? Why would somebody tell you, I have been a victim of bullying? Why would somebody tell you, I did not know the perpetrator, if they don't see that you're using it? So you reporters are always at the core of the actions that we do. And we always tell them, hey, you reporter, a couple of weeks ago, we asked you this. This is how the information is being used. In Liberia, for example, we have the case of the reporters unveiling sexual abuse in schools on girls. And once they reported that information, 86% of the reporters said sex for grades is a problem in my community, there was an obligation of providing useful information on how to report sexual abuse and how to mobilize girls and their sisters and their friends, but also to take that information. The UNICEF office started working with the Ministry of Education on longer-term accountability methods and telling you reporters, you provided this very alarming, significant information. It is being used. And it's something that we insist in each one of our countries. We need to get back to your reporters, and if they request information, we need to give it back to them. If they give us something, we need to be giving information that they're going to use themselves as well to mobilize communities, to create awareness, like you were saying, to build that safe trust, that trusted zone, right? On the cyberbullying, we've seen from our results that more than 50% of young people are being victims of cyberbullying. We ran that in five different countries. How are we providing information back to them so we are sure that that data that they shared is useful for them and for the people working to improve their lives?
Thanks, Lucia. Asia, we do have a question for you. How you talk about your writing, and people talk about your rap poems. So how your rap poems are helping to create awareness about bullying and inspiring young people to tackle the torments of bullying?
How are my rap poems inspiring? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Inspiring and helping people going through bullying.
So I actually wrote my rap poems, my roems, before I wrote my book, because I wanted to find a language to communicate with kids all over the world. And most kids listen to rap or some form of music. And I realized that it was a vehicle of change, because there's a lot of rap music out there that is very negative and focuses on very negative concepts. But what about taking rap and using it as a way to discuss bullying, discrimination, other issues that are very, very prevalent? And so I began writing this, and whenever I speak to kids, I perform my raps for probably 2 million kids all over. And when I do it, they go crazy and they are cheering and screaming, and then they write their own because it's their language and I'm speaking to them in the way that they like to communicate, as well as the way I like to communicate. And also, it's not so dark and depressing, because bullying is looked at, of course, because it is a very difficult and very challenging subject, but how can we talk about it in an inspirational way? You know, I went through many years of it, but I also got out and I used it as a way to speak out and to get in to make a change. And that's something that every single kid out there in the entire world can do. And so I'm hoping that my roems are not only a way to educate, but to inspire.
Thanks, Asia. And Lucia, we do have another question for you. There are many concerns about misuse of technology, and also the questions around cyberbullying that you were mentioning. When technology can actually be a positive experience for children and the youth?
Well, we have seen a number of examples. Like Eureport is one of them. But for example, I recently read, I think it's all about being creative, on how to twist technology and see how it can be useful. For example, there's a project in India. I am almost sure it's called Dr. Love, and it uses Snapchat, right? And in Snapchat, you can only have videos for 20 seconds and then they die, right? So what they do is they encourage girls, and I think specifically girls, to report acts of violence, because I believe that almost 90% of cases of abuse and violence are not reported in those areas of India. So they encourage them to send those reports via Snapchat, where they, after 20 seconds, they disappear from the social network, but they activated a technology that pulls that information and takes them to a separate database with their identity protected, so they can then reach out to those girls and provide the needed assistance that they require without having their information living online. Like, one of the concerns about social media and cyberbullying is that your information is going to stay there. If somebody posts something about you on Facebook or other social networks, it stays there. So it kind of lives with you. So I think, how can we use technology to protect children and to protect young people? It's about being creative on the information that you can collect. Through your report, one of the big difference to any other social network where you speak out is that we aggregate the data in real time. If we send out a question like the cyberbullying one, and for example, have you which of the following means are you is it used for have you been a victim from cyberbullying? Through which of the following channels? And then you can see the results, and you can say what percentage of them are females, what percentage of them are males, where they're coming from specifically in that country. So it's aggregating the information that is going to be out there in social media, aggregating in real time, so you can have statistics, locations, and ways to respond to the needs. So that's the creative part of it, but all the different kinds of technology today available for children and young people to report on violence, to protect themselves, have this common ground. They are creative on providing an additional value for the information, whether it's aggregation in real time, whether it's protecting anonymity so the problem can be properly addressed, whether it's crowdsourced information and it's citizenship and the public and people, the ones providing the information. So I think that's a common ground on being creative.
Great, thank you. We would like to thank you, our guests and the audience, for engaging in the conversation and send so many questions. There's one interesting question that I would like to ask, and that I would like you all to reply to this question, so we can make that the final question from the audience. So the last question is, where children and young people going through bullying can find support and the strength to thrive? So we can start with Kate on my side.
Okay. Well, the first and foremost thing, when an act of bullying is going on, the person who is being bullied, the first precautionary measure is to keep calm. Do not retaliate. Do not get angry. Keep calm. And the second thing I advise is you tell the bully, that is the person who is doing the act, to stop. And then another thing is, do not be silent, like the story of Asia. You should, when you go home, you tell your parents, or you look for an adult and tell the adult what you experienced that day. And you should take into consideration your health and psychological recovery, and where you'll be advised, you'll be talked to, people will come and talk to you about the effect of bullying and how you can recover from it. And you should also avoid isolating yourself, because when you isolate yourself, you create more room for you to be traumatized, for you to remain where you are. You know, you will not want to go forward. So those are cardinal things that you can do to prevent or to recover from bullying. And then the last thing is you should reclaim control. Always be faithful that that bully, that other bullying should not tear you apart, should not get you afraid from of going forward. Always say to yourself, I've come too far to allow fear to stop me. I've come too far to allow bullying to stop me from going forward. So you should persevere. You should keep your chest high and keep your hair up.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keita. Lucia, I'd like you to answer these questions. Where
Okay,
definitely can find support and strength.
Okay, I agree with everything Peter just said as well. The importance of communicating and not being silent and looking for help, looking for an adult and talking to someone and telling and try to build that safe zone for young people. I think a few recommendations. There are support systems in different countries, in different times, whether it's helplines, Facebook pages where they provide counseling. I would say first thing is in your country, look for that support, look for those networks as well. On a personal note, I used to work in an organization in Chile as a board member of an organization preventing adolescent suicide from bullying, and we built a safe time on Facebook. That's what it was called, where young people could send messages and get direct counseling from professional counselors to give them advices on how to proceed and who to turn to. We received kids, I remember 7, 6-year-olds writing and telling us, I'm a victim of bullying, what can I do? Look for those spaces in your country. There are available support systems online and offline. There are many different organizations that can counsel via SMS, via Facebook, via messaging. We saw as well that young people and children tend to open up more via text, and those available support systems are in your country. I would say that, and communicate. We recently received more than 100,000 messages from young people telling us what they are doing to prevent other forms of violence. And it's amazing the power young people have, from teaching self-defense and taekwondo to girls to providing information on how to get home safely from school, and building clubs where young people and children support each other in their self-confidence and in the way they relate to others. So look for those support systems, turn to friends, turn to adults. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Lucia. And now, Asia, I'd like to hear from you.
I know how scary it is to ask for that help because I didn't do it for 8 years, but 20 seconds of bravery in just getting yourself up to ask for help or to tell someone what is going on will change your life forever. And I promise you that, and I know how it's not easy, but I really encourage every single person watching, if you're an adult, get that bravery to talk to that kid that you know is struggling. And if you're a kid, get that bravery to talk to an adult in your life. Like I said before, create that top 5 list of the adults in your life. And it seems oftentimes like there is no one there to help you, because I always felt like there's absolutely no one that will understand. But when I finally started opening up, when I finally started talking to my parents, I realized that they understood all along. And I just was so in my head and so afraid that I didn't say anything, but there were always people there. So I really encourage that. And as everyone else said, there are hotlines, there are chats, there are all of these resources out there that are anonymous and that are free and that operate 24/7. And if you just, Google search it, they're all there. Use it to your advantage, because those are other platforms that you can receive help from. And I would also say seeking, mental health professionals, whether it's in your school as a guidance counselor or outside of school, make sure you talk to someone, make sure you don't go through it alone.
Thank you, Asia. So I want to invite you all to join our global movement to end violence against children. I also want to draw your attention to a book that will be released next week by the United Nations Special Representative on Violence Against Children on bullying from the schoolyards to the cyberspace. So keep tuned. Together we can make zero violence a reality for all children everywhere. I also want to invite you to visit our website, endviolenceagainstchildren.org, and follow Zero Violence 2030 on Twitter and Facebook for more details. But before we finish, I have a special ask to Asia. Our audience and ourselves, we want to hear one of your rap poems. Would that be okay for you to recite one? You can recite a full one if you wish. We do have time.
A full one? Oh my gosh. My full one is about like 8 minutes long, so I don't know if everyone wants to hear that.
Whatever you prefer.
Okay. Let's see. All right. I'll perform. So for those of you who don't know what this is, I wrote these poems and I performed them for about 2 million people. Most recently in New York, I performed for 18,000 of my readers and fans and supporters at Madison Square Garden. And that was a really wonderful experience. So I will perform just the ending of one of them for you. Okay. And I'll start from the year that I started getting bullied was 8 years old, but and I go through every year in my rap, but I'm going to start at 15 till the end. On Halloween of my freshman year, a girl I had never met who went to my old school dressed up as me as her costume. And suddenly it was like someone pressed resume. I was all consumed by cyberbullying, harassment, and my past, by a feeling I had never felt. You know what that was? The realization that I had never dealt with what came from the bullying, so I melted inside and started to hide from everything. Family, friends, food, fun. I guess I thought I deserved no one. But then something magical begun. There was this feeling inside. It was this need to be alive. It was this need to survive. And when you feel that fire, you know it's going to be okay. It's like you feel desired and inspired and required. And I began to write all day, all night. I created my own light at the end of that dark tunnel. That year, I wound up winning an international film festival for a movie that I wrote. And on that day, standing on that stage, I thought of this quote. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And that goes for everyone. That next year, my direction veered. It started as a regular day. Okay, went to school, acted like I was cool, got home, went to my desk, opened my laptop to see what homework I had to address. The news popped up, and now I digress. He was the first story. 16 years old, he couldn't hold on any longer, couldn't be any stronger. It said, suicide due to bullying, and I knew I couldn't wait any longer. You see, I didn't know the boy in the news story who took his life, who lost his fight, but there was something about this boy that destroyed me. He looked like the type that would get his master's degree, race at the Grand Prix, sail the South China Sea, and yet he lost his fight and decided to flee. It broke me because I know what it's like to lose your fight, and I know what it's like to take back your life. But how could I let kids cry every day without telling them that it's going to be okay? So I spent weeks wrestling my own mind to the point where I would just go to bed and cry because I couldn't find the answer. And then one day my mom came into my room to say, you gotta be brave. Tell your story. If not you, who will tell the story of the 13 million American kids every year who no longer know what it's like to smile from ear to ear? And suddenly, it all became clear. There was a commotion and motion inside my brain. I felt like I was going insane. And she said to me, who do you want to be? What do you want to achieve? What do you believe? I want to be who I needed when I was younger. I want to achieve more than I ever thought was possible. I believe in standing up, standing up, standing up. I'm not backing up, easing up, or shutting up. I'm going to make a change. So I put pen to paper, rearranged the thoughts that poured from my brain, and created a book that goes by the name, The Survival Guide to Bullying. The book Asia needed when she was 10, 12, 15. It just came a few years late, but hopefully it would show everyone else how to communicate, love your weight, your sexual orientation, or your growth rate. Because it doesn't matter what anyone says to you. You are the pilot to your own life. You decide how to fly your flight. You decide if you're going to walk the road alone each night or have someone by your side to tell you it's going to be all right. Because it is going to be all right. Whether you are gay, straight, trans, lost, found, alone, sad, scared, or different, we are all different, unfinished, sufficient. We all fight our own battles each day. We all must be accepting of our wounds that don't always fade away. So I'll leave you with this and say, if there was only one thing I had left to say about bullying, it would be this. I promised myself that I would take a stand, try to save others by holding out my hand, but I cannot fix this problem on my own. I need people like you to get up, hold your head high, raise your hand and say, I will not let another kid feel like someone else's prey. Whether you are the bully, the bullied, or the bystander, today is a new day. Stand up, don't back down, and be brave. Thank you. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Wonderful. I think, yeah, no more words. It's all there. So thank you all, and have a great weekend. And thank you, Asia, Lucia, Keita, for bringing all this experience together.
Thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you all. It was so great talking with you all.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Asia, for that. That was really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye.